the comments were due this Tuesday, and the County of Mendocino did an excellent job with the involvement of Supervisor Williams and the executive office, as well as County Council, to provide comments urging a modified version of the OMB rules so that we get $82 million. It's a lot to unpack, so I'll open it up for questions on that if you'd like. Again, there is a process through the CPUC where we have to apply for party status, and then we're free to make comments. Mendocino County had not done so. In fact, Marin, Mendocino, Napa, and Sonoma County all were funneling their comments through the North Bay North Coast Broadband Consortium instead of applying for party status. But Mendocino saw the wisdom in making their own comments so that we could participate in the consortium's comments, find consensus among those 4 counties about what the message should be, but also the executive office and the county council could weigh in with an emphasis on the OMB model so that we maximize our dollars.
Jeff?
Yes, Katie.
I have a comment that's probably off. It was back for the middle mile, but does any of this include any sort of redundancy? Because the one of our biggest problems from Sonoma north, or probably from Marin north, is the fact that there's sort of one way to get here. And is this middle mile any chance that they might put in a second line so that we're not just stuck with the one we have?
Well, I think that if we look back at the initial projects and the line that's coming in from Lake County, I guess it's here, that is probably giving us greater redundancy. I think that we rely on 101 and 1, and now there will be Highway 20 as an additional fiber route. And that's probably the reasoning for putting this among the initial projects. Yes, the answer to your question is I believe there will be a great deal more redundancy, and that is really why the state is investing the $3.25 billion in the middle miles to ensure a robust backhaul.
Jeff, I would add to that the line as we have proposed it currently north of Fort Bragg up to Westport Union Landing won't be redundant. The Golden Bear broadband design on that took it from Fort Bragg up to Westport and across it went across Branscombe Road, wherever Branscombe Road comes out the ocean, through Branscombe and connected at Willits. So there was a redundancy. So if there was a break in that line north of Fort Bragg, they still have connectivity. Just a point to make.
You're right, and our request to extend Westport Union Landing is so that we could use the last mile dollars, or encourage the use of the last mile dollars to connect through Branscombe Road. Marianne has her hand up.
Okay.
Just curious, Jeff, on the definitions, when do they decide on that? I know this has all been just Republican, but is there a date that they make that final decision, and then does that tie back directly to the funds?
I think that I haven't heard directly a response to that question. I don't have an answer, but I think that some attending a meeting of Senator Padilla, which I did attend, indicate that it's a matter of months. So let's say February, March. There's a finite amount of time for public comment with regard to the I always want to say advocate judge, but I believe it's something different. The judge's ruling emphasized the OMB model as being the preferred model, but asked for comments with regard to the US Census model and the RCRC model. And the timeline was for Tuesday for comments. And then there's a reply comments are due mean, to other people's comments. If we read San Diego County's comments and decide we want to point out an inaccuracy, we can do that by the 10th of December. But I think that, I mean, so they structure it so that there's comments and reply comments on timelines, and then a decision is reached, probably not immediately on the close of reply comments, but soon thereafter. I think February, March.
And then that triggers the ability to then access those funds, because that's a whole nother level of then we would have to apply for that amount of money.
Yes, and it's complicated by the JPA that we're entering into with RCRC. And both Mike and I were just on the North Bay North Coast Broadband Consortium management meeting discussing these things earlier today. I have been acting under a faulty assumption that the money will be to a greater degree controlled by the county, but it really, the last mile dollars are really going to be allocated more along the lines of the CASIF grant application, where incumbents can apply to the dollars allocated for a given county, in our instance, Mendocino County. We need to have a comprehensive plan, which we do through the CASIF planning grant, but we don't have the infrastructure behind it to apply for the full dollar amount and implement a full last mile footprint. We have ceded that authority to RCRC and are unsure of guarantees with regard to whether they'll adopt our broadband infrastructure plans, or further, I don't think the money that we're being allocated could complete it. So it is a matter of redesigning something for Mendocino County. And we should do everything we can to make sure it's a comprehensive plan for Mendocino County that requests the full dollar amount, rather than permitting incumbents to cherry pick communities and then leave dollars on the table that go back to the CPUC if we don't spend it. May not have answered your question, but it's part of the discussion.
No, I think yes, and more. So those are good observations, and all to be considered in earnest soon.
Agreed. I am reading the chats. Somebody asked, where does Mendo fall in the rural classifications? In the US Census, Mendocino County is an urban county. In the OMB model, we are the modified OMB model, we are a rural county, and in the RC, we are a member of RCRC. Oh, and John Schuster has asked, can solutions like Starlink provide services to the unserved rural last mile now instead of waiting for fiber? Absolutely. I mean, I think that Starlink will be probably a part of the solution. They have only launched maybe 15% of their satellites, and so many of potential Starlink customers won't have fail-safe internet until they have full satellite deployment. But I do believe that Starlink will be part of the solution. Go ahead, Mike Nichols.
Thank you very much. On Starlink, at least in Sonoma County, in the cell that I'm located in, they are telling us now we're pushed back to 2023 for any new applicants. So it's they've got a shortage of chips and some manufacturing issues because of supply chain issues that is delaying deployment of the Starlink program, at least here in Sonoma County. I don't know what your cells are looking like up in Mendocino County, but it's easy enough to go to Starlink and then put in an application and determine what the dates are.
Thank you. So any other questions on SB 156 middle mile and last mile? I have questions and we're seeking answer for those questions. But if any of you have questions that we might be able to answer now, please inquire.